The Rocket Review is sponsored by Why Not Saloon.
We're so pleased to have back on the show a friend that's been on more than once or twice, a talented young man, Americana country music, singer, songwriter, actor, voice actor, Jet Jurgensmeyer. It's good to have you back on the show.
I'm glad to be back.
It's like, I was telling you this, Jet, and not to embarrass you, but I think, the first time you came on the show many years ago, you were like 13.
Yeah, times have changed.
And your voice is so much lower now.
My voice is lower. I'm gonna be 20 this year. It's weird. It's a weird time to be alive.
It was so funny too, because like when you and I bumped into each other at the gym a week or so ago, and you come in, I'm like going, oh my gosh, Jet's taller than me now.
Now look at us. Here we are.
Well, we got to talk about your new album that came out, and we were talking before we came in studio. The Ride Phase 2. It's like, it seems to me, Jet, and I want to talk about this with the co-writing, with the music, and also the progression of your guitar playing. It really seems like an evolution of your musical style, and I don't know if that's just from living in Nashville, from going to Belmont. Tell me what it is.
I think honestly, it's a simple answer, but just growing up. As I've gotten older, the last album was written over the early years of my teen life, so that's why we called it Discover. I was discovering myself as an artist, as a kid, as a teenager. Right. This was over the kind of adult teen years of my life, the early adult years of my life. And so that's why when The Ride kind of came into my mind, I was like, that makes sense, because as you said before we came in here, each song is like different. Like you can kind of tell which ones were written first and which ones were written later. Yeah. And the whole album, if you listen to it top to bottom, it's a ride. You're like, what is happening right now? I didn't even know. So I was just writing songs that felt right to write about what I was going through and then put them together. Well,
and the lyric, to me, what I notice about this album, and certainly, I've always enjoyed your past music you've put out and everything too, Jet, but it seems like you're embracing more of your influences. We had talked about like, the Foo Fighters, with more of the rock and stuff, but also the country and the Americana sounds, to where it seems like you're, and I mean this in a very good way, you're finding your own voice.
Absolutely. I think that's an important part about growing up and being an artist is I don't want to just be one of those artists where when people hear my song on the radio, they can't quite tell who it is. Like, who is it? I want them to be able, that's Jet. And so that was really important to me, and that stems all the way back to writing the songs, writing about what I'm going through. Each one of the songs is one of my personal stories. That's how I could make them the most relatable and make the album the most relatable to the audience.
Well, and also, I got to bring this up too, Jet, with your co-writers and your producer, and then on one of these songs, you wrote it by yourself.
I did. I wrote Bones by myself. I don't really know how it happened. I know that I was in a hotel room in California with my parents, and I just started playing the guitar, and I came up with the guitar part.
Yeah.
And I was like,
which I love it because it hooked me.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah. That's why it hooked me. And I was like, man, I don't know. I've never written anything like that. That'd be kind of cool. And it was a day or two later, we were back at our house in California. And I always record my entire writes whenever I sit down with my co-writers, because half the time somebody says something cool, throws out a melody, and we forget it. Right. So I just set my phone down and record.
Makes sense.
Just have it,
so
just
you don't
in case.
Lose it.
So I started recording, and Bones was written in 17 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Which was surprising. I've never written a song that fast, and usually if you do write a song that fast, it's not very good.
Yeah, but it's one of my favorite cuts on the album, too.
I'm so glad. That's why I was so happy when you said that, because it's one of the most personal songs on the album. And I think it came out exactly how it was supposed to. And it's all me, which is very stressful to put out a song that you were the only writer on, because if somebody doesn't like it, it's not like, oh, well, my co-writer, they came up with that pre-chorus. No, that wasn't me. It was all me.
but I think that's also with the lyrics, of the songs on this album, Jet, to where it seems, certainly a maturity, but also an honesty. You're coming from a different point. You and I were talking about it, and not to brag on you, but I will. But, from doing all the TV work and voice work and everything, you've kind of had multiple careers already in your life. And certainly as you're focusing more on the music, it seems like your songs are becoming deeper and more honest, whereas before you were doing more pop stuff.
It's a very good point. That's why I wanted to write the songs for this album about what I had been through. Right. The last album was either my story or one of my co-writers. This one was just me. Yeah. And so that's how, as I matured and as the songs matured, I wanted to make it so that the audience could feel as if they were really getting a glimpse into my life. Because when you're an actor or you're an entertainer, you know, people come up with things about you, or they think that you might be like that character or whatever. So I wanted to make sure that I could be as real and as honest about who I really was to the audience with this album.
I think that's really showing through. And also, got to bring this up. You've been out on tour. You know, you've played a lot of Songwriter Rounds. I feel like you're a local now. You know, you've been here 7 years, and, you know, once again, you know, you're talking about California, bouncing out there for the acting and voice work, but also Nashville, Tennessee, and St. Louis, which we both have ties back to Missouri.
Yes, sir.
But it seems like, you know, with the band and everything, you're kind of spreading your wings with that also.
Oh, it's a whole new experience playing. It's strange. You're going from just having to worry about me and my acoustic guitar to, oh man, now I've got to like direct these other three guys and like entertain people with a whole band on stage. It's weird.
You're the leader and the lead singer.
It's a lot of pressure, man. I don't like it. It's a lot of pressure. But I mean, as you know, we're literally leaving right from here to go play a show. We're going to drive about 9 hours today, and then the rest tomorrow, and then play tomorrow night. So it's a whole new experience, but it's so fun. I mean, it's what I grew up dreaming to do. It's what I've been around my whole life, was touring artists and musicians, and all I've ever wanted to do was be one of them. And now I get to live that dream, and it's so surreal.
Well, I got to bring this up too, to where, you know, last year you got to play PBR in Las Vegas.
I did.
And so you may be playing it again this year.
I may be playing PBR, going to be going out to Vegas in December for the NFR. So that's
huge.
We're hoping to be playing a lot. We're going to be playing a lot over this fall, and already booking into 2025.
And in between going to college also.
In between going to college. So my weekends are always packed with shows, and then during the week, learning about music business.
You know, and it's odd too, because, you know, sometimes you'll watch Nickelodeon and you'll see like a young Jet, and then there's a mature voice on there also that's like introducing things, and it sounds like you.
Yeah, because it is. I went from being the 7-year-old on like Bubble Guppies to now being the next up on Nick Jr. Introducing Bubble Guppies, which is kind of odd. Like I'm introducing the younger version. It's a strange thing, but yeah. So that is me, and I always find it interesting whenever I'm on stage or performing somewhere, and I mention like the voiceover stuff. The parents get super excited because they're freaking out. The kids are very confused. Totally. Kids are always like, what do you mean you were Bubble Guppy?
Well, that was like we had an artist in, you know, a few weeks ago from NSYNC, and it's like some people just know Chris from his voiceover work on The Fairly Odd Parents. Yeah. It's like going, yeah, he was in a little band called NSYNC.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever heard of them. They were big.
Yeah, kind of with Deadpool and all that. But it's the same with you, to where, you know, you have these early, you know, careers, you know, doing voice work and doing on-camera work. You know, and then now you're introducing yourself.
I'm introducing myself, and now I'm doing something that's still in the same field but different. So then when people see me on stage, I'm playing country music. They're like, "You were on Disney? You were on Nickelodeon? What? What are you doing here?" I'm like, "It's a long story. It's my roots. It's Nashville coming out of me."
And you're still doing auditions and tryouts for TV and film also.
Absolutely. Yesterday I was doing one. I got one when I get back this next week. And
then you have a high-tech audio setup at your house to do the voiceover.
Super high-tech, guys. If you want to get into voice acting, it's a lot of super high-tech equipment.
But also, you and I both know how much fun it is.
It's so much fun.
You know, to be able to do that. I mean, to be, you know, and I know it's the same for you, Jet, to where it's like, it's just fun to have the scripts and be able to, which you do so well, impart your personality.
Absolutely, and it's also super simple. Like the equipment is not high tech or hard to understand.
But the thing is, the audio has to be.
The audio does have to be good. If you have a good microphone, you can pretty much make everything work, which is awesome.
Yeah, and you and I were talking the last time we got together, to where you have to take a setup on the road too, because in between playing shows and doing all this other stuff, it's like going, oh yeah, we need this voice bit from you.
I'll give you a great example of that. Earlier this year, my family and I were on a cruise in Europe. It was the 80th anniversary of D-Day, so we got to tour Normandy, and we went to London. We ended the trip in London. Super cool. Yeah. While we were on our cruise ship, I got an audition. The one time I didn't have anything with me. I was like, I'm going for 10 days. There's no way anybody... I got an email.
Yeah, of course.
So I recorded it on my phone, and it sounded like I recorded it on my phone. But you got to do what you got to do. Right. And it made me appreciate the fact of having a good setup at home. Yeah. Because I was so grateful for having that, and I wish that I had it in the middle of the ocean.
But you're such a pro, though, too. And I think, you know, you've always carried yourself professionally, and certainly, from working with, the TV stars and everybody else you have. I mean, it's so interesting to see the progression, Jet.
Thank you.
And then, but also, as you're pushing the envelope of your music, it seems like you're kind of in a renaissance with your songs, and I know you're going to have an acoustic EP that comes out this fall, and you're already working on your next album for next year.
I'm really excited about the stuff that's coming for the rest of this year and then 2025. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. The acoustic EP is going to be super broken down into just some of my favorite songs that I've written as a songwriter and really as a storyteller, and I think that I want it to be acoustic because I want the songs to speak for themselves, and I want the people to be able to hear them and really understand each word. And then, the next album.
Well, and I always like seeing it too, to where you play, you're playing rounds, Songwriter Rounds, which, huge thing here in Nashville, but that you're putting yourself out there that way also. And as we both know, it's that is putting yourself out there. I mean, because you're sitting next to people that have written hit songs for, like we were talking about, Hardy and all these people,
stressful.
And you're sitting next to them and going, and here's a Jurgensmeyer song.
Yeah, I was playing the Bluebird, and I'm playing with like my friend Jeremy, and he's like, "Oh yeah, Riley Green cut this one." Names 6 other artists that cut all these other ones, and I'm like, "I wrote this one last week." This has not seen a studio yet, but I'm going to play it at the Bluebird. I don't know why.
But isn't it humbling?
It's so humbling, but it's also part of it.
Right.
I feel like, man, I've got so much more to accomplish. But then when I think about where I started, playing writers' rounds with songs that when I look back now, I'm like, I can't believe I played these in public. And to where I am now, getting to play the Bluebird, having my own rounds with the listening room and things like that, it makes it be like, okay, all those paying your dues are paying off.
It's paying off, and I think it also shows to how you're working the craft. And I was complimenting on your guitar playing because, as you know, I'm a little picky on that, and also on your lyrics and everything. I can tell you've immersed yourself in the craft, because when I hear you play your Martins and everything now, I can tell how much you've progressed.
Yes.
Since, we were first talking and you're going, yeah, I'd like to get a Martin guitar, and we kind of,
And now look, here we are. I got my own model with my signature on the fretboard, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Get to play that on stage, and it's kind of nice. It makes it all feel
you're playing
real.
venues like the Listening Room, Bluebird, all over Nashville, that a lot of people twice your age are trying to get into these venues.
I feel very blessed. I don't take any of it for granted. I've always heard people say it's better to be lucky than good, and I think I've been very lucky with who I've been able to meet and been able to make a good first impression on. You and I have been friends for a very long time now, and I was just a young kid, an early teenager.
I saw one of the pictures the other day of the first time you came on TV, and it's like, you were like a little kid, and it's like, I remember when your mom and dad reached out to me and go, hey, our son's an actor and he's doing some music stuff. Would you have him on the show? I'm like, yeah, sounds like fun.
Sure, why not? How bad could it be? Yeah. Now you're stuck with me almost 7 years later.
We became friends, and then I see you at the gym, and I was like going, wow, it's like, bulked up.
What can I say, guys?
Full adult young man.
I'm growing up, and it's a weird thing, but I'm glad. Everything happens for a reason. Everything has to take its time.
Right.
But eventually, if you're willing to have a lot of no's, those yeses will feel so special.
But I think you and I both know also with the no's and with the learning process, they all make you better. Because for every door that's closed in my face, it has made me try harder and work harder.
You wouldn't believe. People always mention like, oh man, you've done a lot of stuff for acting. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But imagine how many things I've actually auditioned for and haven't gotten. Those, I've heard no more times than anybody. Right. It's part of it.
Yeah.
And I think every time it's made me better. Especially if it's been, whether it was a song that I really wanted to turn out well, it was a really good idea, but it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
A part I really wanted. If I work really hard on it and don't get it, it makes me go, all right, what did I do wrong? What could I do better next time so that I never have to experience that again?
Well, I think you've done a great job also with your co-writers on finding the right people that work with you. Same thing with your producer, because, on this album, and certainly we were talking before we came in studio, you've got songs that were, written years ago. My favorite songs on this album are your newest ones.
Thank you.
Because those to where I think you're really putting in your voice, and really they seem more honest in you.
Definitely. And that was, my producer, Dan Frizsell, who he and I worked with together on this album, I wanted to be a part of everything for this album, from writing to recording to even mixing.
Right.
So I went over to his house and we mixed every single one of the songs together. That was important to me, and I was kind of shocked when he told me that not a lot of artists do that. You know, they typically have somebody mix it, send it to them, give them notes. I was like, if I'm supposed to sell this story on stage to people, I want to know everything that went into it. I want to know that it takes you an hour and a half to EQ and tune these drums.
Right.
Like, that is absurd.
And also the guitar sounds, you know, just like we were talking on Bones, which, once again, one of my favorite tracks, to where I like hearing you play the guitar. I like that intricate intro that hooks me and takes me into the song.
I wanted it to be as broken down and it feel as if I was sitting right here performing it with you. So I went over to our friend John Willis's house. He usually does a bunch of demos and plays acoustic guitar on all of my stuff.
Yeah.
And I went over to his house and I was like, I have 2 acoustic songs that I need to put on this album, Bones and 6 Strings.
Right.
And he said, all right, here's a mic. I brought my guitar and sat down and started playing.
And those are my 2 favorite tracks.
I'm so glad. I'm hearing that makes me so proud, because those are 2 songs that, like, I'm proud of the whole album and every one of the stories, how they turned out. But those are the 2 most vulnerable. And I'm so glad to hear that.
I think it shows through. Well, I want to make sure for our viewers, besides the album that's out now, you know, where do they need to go for websites, social media, for everything? Maybe they're watching Nickelodeon, or maybe they're coming to see you in concert or at the NAMM show.
You never know.
Where do they need to go, Jet?
So it's super complex, guys. It's jetjurgensmeyer.com. Who'd have thunk it?
And that's for everything.
It's for everything from Twitter, X, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook,
doing it all.
My music. Jet Jurgensmeyer, Jet with 1 T like a plane. Super fun way to remember it. I know you remember
like that.
it.
Yeah, but also, you know, I think they can follow your journey on campus at Belmont. They can follow you
Belmont, you see me
on the road.
You can see me stressing out about classes. You can see me stressing out doing homework on the road.
Writing songs.
Writing songs on the road.
Playing
all the good
Bluebird.
things. Playing the Bluebird.
Yeah, I'm coming to see you live next time you play here locally.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay.
I'll let you know. I'll text you.
Yeah, please, because I, you know, once again, also to see you put those Martins through the paces.
Oh my goodness. Well, they just get better with age. The more that you play them.
The more you play them.
I've had my OMJM for 8 years now.
Oh my gosh.
Something like that.
Right. Yeah, it's not as good as the signature model.
It's not quite as good. It has John Mayer's signature on it, so I guess that gives it a little bit. But
I hope he makes it. But anyway, you know, but you're doing so well, and you're also going to be opening for some other bands possibly in the next year.
Hopefully soon, and I hope we'll be able to talk about it.
We'll have more news on that.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'll tell you what. Be sure and you know, add the entire album to your playlist, because you're going to enjoy every song on here, especially Bones and 6 String. On The Ride Phase 2, Jet Jurgensmeyer. Jet, so good to have you in.
Great to be back.
Good
Thank
to see
you so
you, buddy.
much.
The Rocket Review is sponsored by Why Not Saloon.